Hello everybody, welcome to the Boxing Science Podcast. This is episode 71, where I'm going to be answering your questions about a range of different topics regarding strength and conditioning, sports science in boxing and combat sports. In this week's episode, we're going to be covering core training and how to integrate that into a training week in terms of how much you should do and when, how to bulk and try and put on size in the right way if you're going to be moving up weight class, tools to prevent lower back injuries, and we're also going to be looking at loaded jumps for boxing. So if you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future content, and let's get on with this week's episode. Before we start this week's episode, I'd like to ask you a quick favour. We get a really good engagement in terms of how many questions that are coming in, and it's a fantastic way to apply our training methods into your particular situations. But what we've noticed about these videos is that only 30% of people watching these videos actually subscribed to the channel. We're wanting to shift that 30% to 50%. We can only do that with your help. So if you can do me a quick favour, hit that subscribe button so it helps the growth of the channel and helps us give you bigger and better content in the future. Before we get started, hit that subscribe button and let's get on with this week's episode. This first question is about how to do core training. Do we target more volume or intensity? How many sets do we do across a week? This person suggested 45 sets. So this is a really important question because with core training, you want to make sure that you're doing the right amount of volume, but also you're wanting to target intensity. When you're looking at like how many sets, we probably look for between 40 and 50 sets across the training week, but making sure that that is well distributed across a few different sessions instead of just like absolutely caning the core over like one or two sessions. Now, we covered this on a Boxing Science Reacts episode. We looked at Golovkin's training and he was doing like between 60 and 90,000 repetitions on his core over a training week. Not a lot of boxers can achieve that, but a very common conversation that I'll have with athletes is, what do you do for your core training? And it's often really high volume and not a lot of rotation, not a lot of distribution, and not a lot of intensity as well. Core training, we look at the four pillars. We look at anti-rotation, anti-lateral flexion, anti-extension, and also hip flexion with neutral spine. With these four pillars, we try and target this every single strength session. 3 to 4 core exercises in each strength conditioning session, performed between 3 and 4 sets. With the rep ranges, we're working between 8 and 12 repetitions. For timed reps, such as core holds, look for between 20 and 30 seconds. Long duration holds, but we're still maintaining that intensity. No, we're not doing like planks for 1 or 2 minutes. We're still maintaining some sort of intensity there. So even on the core holds, let's say if somebody's finding it quite easy, doing it for 30, 40 seconds, we might add a band to it. We might add a weighted plate. We might do some sort of like isometric holds, partner assisted with the bands or even with manual resistance as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can still get them long duration holds in there. We then look to do some core circuits at the back end of boxing sessions. We try and do this between 2 and 3 times a week. So you're hitting the core between 4 and 5 times a week. Now, this is really important for boxers to make sure that we've got a lot of frequency there, because we've found that the lean mass of the trunk being the biggest physical contributor towards a punching action. So when we're looking to put on muscle mass or try and maintain muscle mass when making weight, we're wanting to make sure that we're increasing the size of the core. So that's why we train for higher volumes. So that's why we do a lot of sets and making sure that the training frequency is there as well. If you're wanting more information, go and check out our Train Like Champion membership and also look at our programs where we start integrating core a lot more into the strength conditioning workouts and into your boxing workouts as well. This next question is how to bulk into a new weight category. So the first thing to do is to make sure that you get a body composition assessment to make sure that you actually need to put on muscle mass. We do this with our performance nutritionist, Lee Rickards. Go and follow him on Instagram, boxingscience_nutrition. He performs this body composition analysis where we're looking at body fat. A very key component is fat-free mass. And that fat-free mass can really indicate of what weight category an athlete should be at. That fat-free mass needs to more or less equal the fighting weight that you're at. So for example, a 63 kilo fighter will want their fat-free mass to be 63 kilos. If it's on 63 kilos, we know that there's no wriggle room in terms of putting on muscle mass. So we need to really adapt our strength and conditioning protocols to make sure that we're limiting any muscular hypertrophy. But if we've got an athlete like, let's say, at 60 kilos, so we know that they've got 3 kilos of wiggle room there to put on some muscle mass. So with that, we then look to put that on in the right areas. So we just mentioned just in the previous question that trunk muscle mass was the biggest contributor towards punching force. How did we work this out? Original boxing science testing battery that we performed at Sheffield Hallam University, we performed correlations with body composition metrics. This was on a in-body machine where we looked at body fat, muscle mass, but also where that muscle mass was distributed. We looked at 3 key areas. We looked at the trunk, looked at the lower body, and looked at the upper limb. And what we found was the trunk mass was the largest correlation with performance on a medicine ball punch throw, what we use to estimate punch force and hand speed. And this really makes sense because you look at some of the top fighters of present and past, looking at people like Canelo, Golovkin, Manny Pacquiao, for example, they've all really got thick, strong cores. And this is why we really target this on our boxing science program, and you can see the effects on their body composition. You can see with these fighters here that they're really looking thick around the core. So when making weight, we're looking to try and maintain as much muscle mass around the trunk, but when we're looking to stack on weight, if we're moving up a weight division, this is where we're wanting to put on muscle through the core. And then we're looking to the lower body as the second largest contributor with a medium correlation with medicine ball punch throw distance. More important is that we've found a weak correlation between upper limb muscle mass and medicine ball punch throw distance. So essentially, the bigger arms that you'll have, this slows down the hands and slows down the hand speed. So when we're looking to put on muscle, we're not wanting to just stack it up onto our arms, makes it look a lot bigger. We're actually wanting to put it around the trunk and the lower body first. So how do you actually put on this through training protocols? So first of all, looking at the trunk, we're looking to try and make sure that we're doing large amounts of volume on the core. So making sure that we're doing that core training between 4 and 5 times per week. And then we're looking to do, for the lower body and the trunk, we're looking to do some high threshold strength training, but increasing the volume at the same time. So we're wanting to increase volume whilst maintaining intensity because we're wanting to maintain speed whilst putting on this muscle mass. 4 key training methods that we use. We use cluster sets, which is where using a higher load over higher volumes, but we're having this like intersped with a short recovery. So for example, we do 4 reps, rest for 10 seconds, then we'll do another 4 repetitions. And we can go as low as 3 reps and as long as 20 seconds recovery, and then do another 3 reps at the end. Then we've got a drop set where we're doing 2 sets of the same exercise, but we're dropping the load. So we might do 3 to 5 reps at a higher load, and then we'll drop down the weight around about 20 to 30% and perform between 6 and 10 repetitions on that. And then we've got supersets where we're putting together a compound lift with an isolated lift. So for example, a shoulder press with lateral raises. And then we've got blood flow restriction training. We're using apparatus to restrict blood flow towards the working muscles. What this does is it fatigues the slow twitch muscle fibers and upregulates the high threshold motor units. And we're targeting fast twitch muscle fibers under lower loads. Blood flow restriction training, really important for boxers when they're putting on some muscle mass because you're going to be targeting that muscular hypertrophy under less load. That means that you're not going to get too sore for your training as well. There's some upper limb protocols and there's also some lower limb protocols as well. And one of the most important things is to make sure that you're not putting on too much muscle mass too soon. You're not wanting to stack on 3, 4, 5 kilos of muscle mass in a single training camp because this could end up fatiguing an athlete. So then repeated sprints, then power endurance workouts are going to become a lot harder with more muscle. So increased muscle will increase muscular acidosis, increase them lactate levels. This is why I see a lot of muscular or muscle-bound fighters look to gas out during fights. It's really important to be really patient in terms of putting on muscle mass. This is why, for example, Fabio Wardley, he's put on 25 to 28 pounds when the first time that he started the boxing science program, but this has been done in 2 or 3 pound increments during each fight. And then he's found the right level of what he fights at normally. So it's really important to have that incremental approach to it and not just stack on those muscle in one training camp because you'll find yourself gassing out in the ring. So hopefully that helps. If you want any more help with this, drop me an email at dannywilson@boxingscience.co.uk and I can provide some bespoke training solutions for you. How would you structure training during a calorie deficit where energy availability is lower? Towards the other end of the spectrum here, of an athlete wanting to put on muscle mass to now an athlete that's really struggling to make weight. And it's a really important area because what you don't want to do when you're trying to make weight on low energy availability is to just keep working hard and harder and harder, because this is where an athlete can end up overreaching, overtraining, potentially getting ill, fatigued, or getting injured. And that's the last thing that we want during training camp. Have some targets in terms of energy expenditure each day, not wanting to do too much, because if you are only putting so much fuel in, if there's a lot of fuel going out, then that's when an athlete can end up overreaching and being overtrained. You've got to be talking as a team, boxing coach, nutritionist, strength and conditioning coach, to make sure that you're hitting them calorie targets per day. And then we're looking at, like, in terms of strength and conditioning, you might be looking to do minimum effective dose. That means the minimum amount of work that you can get your athlete to do to get that adaptation. Minimum effective dose could be something like on strength training, 3 reps, 3 sets, and also at about 80 to 85% 1 rep max. So an athlete is getting them strength adaptations, but they're not doing enough intensity or enough volume to fry an athlete and become fatigued from that session. So finding out the minimum effective dose, not only for your strength and conditioning, but also for your conditioning as well. Conditioning protocols might look a little bit different. You might not be able to do the max effort sprints or repeat sprint protocols. You might have to do things at a little bit of a lower intensity. Still targeting red zone adaptations with like central adaptations, 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off. Muscle buffering capacity might be 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. But again, still doing minimum effective dose on them sessions, and potentially topping up if you're needing to burn more calories with some lower intensity warm-ups or cool down strategies. So once you do your 4 minutes on, 2 minutes off, doing 4 reps, which is the minimum effective dose, going on the bike for 15, 20 minutes at a lower intensity will help top up that energy expenditure without taking too much out of your athlete. And then just having a track of an athlete's wellness, whether that's just a simple questionnaire, how are you feeling today, what your energy levels are, what your soreness is, and see whether you can work around athletes' training availability and their session day wellness as well. Make sure that you're pushing them when they're feeling good, but also if they're not feeling so good, not to be trying running them into the ground. Like I said before, any more questions, fire over an email, but go and check out Lee Rickards, our performance nutritionist at boxingscience_nutrition. If you need any help in terms of managing your energy expenditure and energy intake during training camp. This question is about a cervical disc injury and lower back pain. How can you keep boxing? Okay, so it's quite difficult for me to answer this one for your particular situation because I don't know what the level of injury that you have at the moment. So please take my suggestions with caution and obviously get a qualified physiotherapist or strength and conditioning coach to help you with your bespoke injury. A general point of view, if somebody's struggling with a lower back injury and looking to try and return into boxing, if you're getting pain during boxing, try and offload that boxing training for now. Focus on your physical rehab. So many times I see boxers just try and get through training camp, just keep trying to box because they're having to keep up with their training camp. But sometimes it's probably best off to just have a few days off or a week off or something like that and focus on your physical rehabilitation. Key things to target if you've got lower back injuries in physical rehab is core strength and stability, glute strength. Also looking at like glute med strength, which is targeting like stuff like banded side clams, banded side walks, lunge variations. We're going with the offset loading. And then also looking at hip mobility as well. These are very general suggestions for you to work on to try and alleviate some pain through the lower back. If you've ticked all them boxes and now going back into boxing, it's really important to approach that in the right way. So going in with lighter sessions to start off with, not just getting some gloves on, hitting the bags, going in sparring straight away. You've got to incrementally increase that training load. From a technical point of view, you might want to look to do some shadow boxing to start off with and look to try and slow it down. Do some dumbbell shadow boxing, be really working that technique without straining that lower back. Let's say if you go shadow boxing, you're going at full speed. This is where you're not really going to be engaging your muscles in the right way. So doing some dumbbell shadow boxing, making sure you're doing high quality warm up going into these workouts as well, doing the full mobility routine, looking to activate, mobilize and potentiate your muscles, getting ready for boxing activity, doing some isometric punch holds, getting all the muscles fired up in the right way, in the right sequence to then go into boxing training. Doing some sort of shadow boxing, dumbbell shadow boxing as well. Start incrementally increasing the intensity and the volume. Maybe if you start going on the bags, doing 1 minute intervals with 1 minute recovery. Not wanting to go to high levels of fatigue too soon, because you go to them high levels of fatigue, this is where injuries can happen. This way you can start compensating, using that lower back again, and this is where injuries can happen. So increasing that fitness, maintaining that high quality of work under short amounts of volume, and then start incrementally increasing that as the sessions and as the weeks go on. Hopefully this is giving you a good indication of what I'd do with an athlete that is in a similar situation to you. Where do you put grip and neck training? Haven't seen it in any of your programs that I bought. This is something that I do more bespoke, because like we do the boxing science testing battery, some athletes need to do a lot of grip training, some athletes don't. Also, we target the 10%, 20% blocks first, rather than looking at like the small incremental gains in terms of neck training and grip training. These are more done as an accessory that we put into our more bespoke programs. We've been doing a lot of neck strength testing quite recently, and we've found that neck strength is very bespoke to each athlete. Some athletes need to work on more lateral neck strength. Some might need to work on the deep flexors of their neck strength. Hard for me to put into a general program. Likewise with grip strength, we test grip strength at Boxing Science. Some athletes tick the box, excellent, don't really need to focus on that too much. Some athletes are really poor at it, so it's like, right, what do we need to work on first? Do we need to work on some very basic pinch grab work? Do we need to work on more speed and rate of force development, doing some pendulum, pinch grab work? So like I said, it's more of a bespoke program. It's more of an accessory base rather than it being in the program. So where would I actually put this? I'd put this as part of an accessory circuit, maybe as an extended warm-up on top of the mobility warm-up. Go away, do your neck grip work, might do it as part of a cool down. Or a lot of athletes, I'll just say, right, at the end of the boxing training session, you can do these exercises here, because there's a lot of boxes that you need to take when you're looking at a strength and conditioning program. We need to get more mobile. We need to improve speed, explosiveness. We need to improve our reactive strength. We need to improve our lower body strength and explosiveness, our upper body strength and speed, core strength and stability. There's a lot of things that we need to target. So I'll be looking to try and integrate these things at different times dependent on the athlete. So like I said, it can be as part of an extended warm-up, can be a cool down at the end of a strength or a conditioning session. But most likely, I'd say to do your neck work and your grip work at the end of a boxing session as well. So I've got quite a bespoke question here, and it's around like loading strategies for trap bar jumps. So trap bar jumps are a fantastic tool to help improve lower body rate of force development. It's been used across a lot of boxing and combat sport athletes. But what I see a lot on social media is that the loading is a little bit light. We go quite heavy. And this is based off the research and the studies that we've done using force plates and also working out momentum values as well. And what we found was peak momentum and rate of force development happens between 1.2 to 1.4 meters per second when we're looking at trap bar jumps and measuring with a gym aware device. Not everybody has access to a gym aware device, so a good tool to use is Jump Height. You can use this with Output Sports device where we're getting accelerometer on the feet and monitoring jump height. And with this, we can work out how an athlete jumps in relevance to the load, and we can do a loaded jump profile. And we found that the response to this is quite individualized. So some athletes respond really well with light loads, and some athletes respond better with heavier loads. Now, what we found from a general rule of thumb is that we want it to be targeting around about 50% of an athlete's jump height. So if they can jump 40 centimeters, they only want to be jumping 20 centimeters, which, believe it or not, feels like you're not even jumping off the floor. And this 50% of jump height needs to happen around about an athlete's body weight. So if an athlete is 60 kilos, they want to be jumping with 60 kilos on the bar. This means that athletes that are maybe heavier, 80 kilos, 100 kilos, they look like they're jumping with a lot of weight. Fabio Wardley can jump with 110 kilos, so it looks absolutely crazy when we're loading up the bar and he's doing these loaded jumps. But really, he's not actually getting off the floor, but using these calculations, we know that we're optimizing momentum by performing trap bar jumps at these loads. Just to summarize, a lot of numbers being thrown there. If you're looking at monitoring trap bar jumps using GymAware, you want to be going between 1.2 and 1.4 meters per second on mean velocity. If you're looking at jump height as a key metric, we want it to be around about 50% of an athlete's jump height. This 50% we'll want to be lifting and jumping with around an athlete's body weight. Hopefully that's answered your questions. We've got a lot more on this on our YouTube channel. Just type in boxing science loaded jumps and we go into the science behind it and also coach examples as well. Okay guys, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of the Boxing Science Podcast. That was episode 71. Go and check out our previous episodes where we talk about a range of different subjects regarding S&C and sports science in boxing and combat sports. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. If you want your question answered on the next podcast, subscribe so then you can see our notifications in the community tab. Thank you very much for watching, listening. Thank you for contributing. Hopefully see you on the next episode of the Boxing Science Podcast.